Secrets, if you really look at yourself, you would be speechless. What happened to being doctors and teachers? What happened to being your brother's keeper? Nowadays, kids more worried about.
Everybody plays a fool sometimes. There's no exception to the rule. It may be factual, may be cruel.
Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy, Mr.BandClap, back at it with this may be my last rant, talking about the trickster entities, talking about the fool, because it's one last thing that I need to cover when it comes to this. I also want to shout out to all of my people that's been hitting me up on Instagram as well as my email about my jewelry. I greatly appreciate all of y'all, because not only is the money that you're giving me, you're going to get your return on your investment by getting a well thought out and well crafted piece of jewelry, something that's going to energetically and spiritually be an asset to you, as well as something that'll look good on your arm or something that'll look good on your neck. This money, along with your donations and all of that, is not only helping my business, but it's also helping me as well, because like I said before, I'm still looking for a place. So all of these things are things that I can tell my landlords and things that I can tell homeowners to make them feel a lot more comfortable about letting me stay in their properties, because they see that I got all of these different streams of income that I can get money from. So from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate all of you all, and I never thought that I would get the type of support that I'm getting. So I extend nothing but the utmost of humbleness and gratitude when it comes to this. So like I said, with this one, I want to wrap this up, but hey, you never know, because on the horizon, y'all may be seeing a Biggie podcast preview very soon. The signs have been off the chain, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. So one last thing before I really go in and start talking about this. Since I've been doing my podcast, I've been having people say the same thing, talk about why your voice sounds so robotic, and why do your voice sound like this? Why do your vocals sound like this? And here's my answer when it comes to that. Now, when you listen to every spiritual teacher and when you listen to every person that's talking about occult spirituality, listen closely. Each one of them have a certain mechanism that they knowingly and unknowingly use to keep certain people that's not supposed to hear the information away from their presence. Let's take Phil Valentine, for example. Phil Valentine, he has a very low and sometimes hypnotizing type of voice anyway. And then on top of that, sometimes he can use a lot of big words and a lot of linguistically advanced terminologies and things like that. So if you're the type of person that can't keep up with him when he's talking, you'll slowly start to zone out. Kind of like when you're at church and it's real warm in the church and you already had to wake up early in the morning to go to church. So you're listening to the pastor and the pastor's damn near lulling you to sleep. But if you can get past that, man, Brother Phil has some very captivating and very knowledgeable occult information that a lot of us can benefit from. Let's take Bobby Hemmett, for example. Bobby Hemmett, he is unfiltered. He is like the definition of unfiltered. I mean, some of the stuff that Bobby Hemmett talks about, even to this day, I'm like, yo, I can't believe that somebody actually came out of their mouth and said this shit. Like that episode where Bobby Hemmett was talking about Lilith, and he was talking about if you having sex with a girl and you don't want her to get pregnant, all you gotta do is call on Lilith and she'll bring her period on. I'm like, who in their right mind would come out and say some stuff like that? But hey, that's Bobby Hemmett, and his mechanism is if you can't handle the raw, uncut, unfiltered truth like most people can, because I can't even lie, it took me a little minute to get comfortable listening to Bobby Hemmett. Like I had to actually go through some things in my life just in order for me to understand Bobby Hemmett, and then I was able to come back with a humble heart and an open mind and get all of those golden nuggets that Bobby Hemmett would drop in his many lectures. And last but not least, let's take Brother Panic, for example. Brother Panic, he curses a lot. He's almost like young Pharaoh with it. And Brother Panic, he came out and he talked about this. He was like, I know that I curse a lot in my lectures, you know, and for me, it's a mechanism that if you can't handle me cursing in my lectures, that means that you're not supposed to hear this information anyway, because somebody who's searching for knowledge, somebody who's searching for the information to liberate them, they won't stop at nothing to listen to that person, even if there's like a whole lot of static in their voice or whatever. If that person is dropping some very good type of information that viewer thinks that they need, and they feels that it's something that's going to help them, they'll withstand through anything in order to hear that information. So that's how I feel when it comes to my podcast, because with the limited equipment that I have, I don't have it right now to the point where my podcasts are just going to sound 100% as good as the next person due to the different processes that I have to put my vocals through before I can even upload it to YouTube. And then when you upload it to YouTube, they take away some of your quality as well. So I'm not trying to sound like a robot on purpose, but with most of my podcasts, sometimes that's how it comes out. And I know a lot of people comment on my videos and say that, but what I gotta say to y'all is, if that's something that just bothers you that much, then maybe this information isn't for you. Meaning that maybe this isn't some information that you just really need, because if it was, you would withstand through all of that just to listen to it. And shout out to all of the many subscribers out there and people who listen to Naturally Foolish and all of that, who do stick around and listen, and I appreciate y'all. So now that I got that out the way, before I talk about how everybody plays the fool, because when I talk about the fool, I want to make something clear. Yes, everybody at some point in time has to play the fool, but you're not supposed to be a fool. On my last video, I ended it with a pataki talking about Alegua and how all of the Orishas perceived him to be a fool simply because he was a little boy and he was innocent and he was kind of removed from everybody because for a long time he was lost at the crossroads. So he was perceived to be a fool. But the reason why Obatala went ahead and let him through, because even though I said what I said in my last video, it was also because Obatala acknowledged that, you know, even though this little boy is an innocent child, he's still an Orisha nonetheless. So it's like, whether we like it or not, we still have to respect the fact that this little child is an Orisha. So this little child, even though personally we kind of think we know what the outcome is going to be, this child has the same right to go up there and try his luck just like we did. But the thing about it was, if he would have went up there and bombed out and all of the stuff that they was talking about that they perceived would have actually came true, this pataki would have had a totally different meaning. And the meaning would have been, when you have an innocent disposition about you and you're trying to go out and do these big things and achieve these feats, when you quote unquote go to the throne and throw your hat in the ring, you definitely have to make sure that you're on your A game, and you definitely have to make sure more than anybody else that you didn't put that work in and that you've given your all, because no one wants to see you be successful and everyone is already perceiving that you're gonna fail. So the last thing that you want to do is to prove them right, because you'll never hear the last of it. But boy, if you can turn the tables around and be like David and beat Goliath and prove everybody wrong, just like Alegua, you're gonna have the greatest success story of all time. So with that being said, everybody in some shape, form, or fashion has to play the fool, but the key is, let that only be what others perceive of you. Don't actually be a fool, meaning that don't actually prove them right. Don't actually think that just because you have that innocence about you that you was able to get away with so much because of that. Don't take that energy for granted, because just like everybody else, there will come a time when you're going to be tested, and if you fail, man, that's just going to be a sad day for you. So as I always do, I got some stories and I got some examples of this, but first off, before I go all the way in, because I'm not really trying to make this video too long, but I want to talk to the ladies right quick, and this may get a little X-rated, so if there's any parents that's letting their kids watch my videos, hopefully not, but kind of cover their ears a little bit. So I've been getting a lot of confirmations lately from Akasha, meaning that naturally, and a lot more now since I dropped that information about her and how her services are opening, I'm starting to see a lot of women heeding that, and I'm seeing a lot of women going into that darkness and getting started on the true journey of finding yourself. And since I'm seeing that, and since in a lot of ways I feel responsible because I'm the one that put a lot of that information out the way I did, now I gotta tell y'all what y'all are gonna start seeing and what you're gonna start experiencing and expecting from the society that we live in. Because whether you're a man or you're a woman, when you get to that point where you're trying to find out who you really are and you start quote unquote finding yourself and going into that darkness, that's when the real game starts to begin. That's when the real fight, the real battle starts to begin. Because when it comes to a lot of us men, a lot of times when we're working on our purpose, we can sometimes get sidetracked simply because of the lack of attention that we get. And that can be a gift and a curse, because when a man is working on himself, he's not going to really look attractive, because attractiveness, a lot of it is based on the type of energy that you put out. And if you're not really putting any attractive, I want attention type of energy out, you're not going to get none in return, because all of that energy, you're using that to build yourself up. You're using that to improve yourself, and you're using that to manifest the you that you're trying to be and that you're aspiring and working this hard to become. So a lot of us guys, like I said in my last podcast, when we get to that point where we start working on ourselves, a lot is sacrificed knowingly and unknowingly. And a lot of that deals with women, because when you're working on yourself and you got that goal in mind, when it comes to us guys, we kind of go into hermit mode, especially when we on a mission. we not gonna be stunting and flossing and all of that stuff. I mean, we not gonna look bummy, but sometimes that's how it is, because when you get to that point, you no longer care about a lot of material things, because when you're on that mission, that's the only thing that's on your mind at the moment. So a lot of times I run across a lot of guys, even myself in a lot of situations too. It can be a very lonely road, but it pays off in the end, simply because if we do meet some women along that journey of us working on ourselves, we'll know that 9 times out of 10 that woman is there because she wants to be there. It's nothing that we're really doing to attract her attention to us. It's just something about us that genuinely piques her interest. And in a lot of cases, those type of women end up staying around for the long haul, because it's kind of one of those situations where she was there when I didn't have nothing, so when I do have something, she's gonna get first dibs because she was that only one that saw something attractive about me even when I wasn't trying to be attractive. So it's a gift and a curse for us, because when we're working on ourselves, that's when we find the most genuine women, and that's when we find the most genuine friends sometimes, because it's not like we have anything to give them in return because we're working on ourselves. But with women, it's actually the opposite. And this goes back to the podcast that I was doing about Akasha, when I talked about how when a woman gets to that stage where she wants to really learn and find out who she really is, she has to pretty much take a nosedive into the darkness. And once she gets to the darkness, it's like you playing a Super Mario Brothers game or something, where as soon as you go into the darkness, you start off in stage 1, and stage 1 is Lilith. Now, the reason why I say that it's the opposite when it comes to women is simply because we living in a society now that thrives on that energy of Lilith, because that energy can be very chaotic when it's in its rawest form, and the potency of that energy is very, very strong. And wielding too much of that energy, since it's so potent and it's so strong, even too strong for our human bodies to even handle. If a woman absorbs too much of Lilith's energy and she doesn't get to that point where she starts to transmute it and transform it into the energy of Akasha, which is stage 2 and stage 3, that woman can eventually become self-destructive, because at the end of the day, Lilith's spirit cannot be contained, not even in this human body. And if you try to contain too much of her energy inside of you, even if you're a woman, it's kind of like putting Mentos in a Coke and closing the bottle. That energy is going to expand more and more to the point where it's just like a bomb, and you just explode spiritually and mentally and even physically. People are going to start to see the difference, and they're not going to really know what's wrong with you, but they're just going to have that notion that they don't even want to be around you no more, because you're not the same in a bad way. And that's why when it came to Akasha, the reason why Aaliyah was able to transmute that Lilith energy like she was able to do was simply because she had a lot of people around her. She literally had a fence around her of family members and things like that who was able to help her and keep her steered on that right path, not smothering her like Selena's dad was doing, but more of a situation to where I'm gonna let you do what you do because I know that that's a part of your path, but on the flip side, I'm not gonna let you get too out of hand with it. And when it comes to that, that's something that you have to be extremely careful with, especially when it comes to black women, because since black women and their melanin is so much so connected earthly to the cosmic melanin and the cosmic divine feminine, a black woman will be able to absorb a little bit more of the energy of Lilith than, say, a non-melanated woman, simply because of the source energy that's inside of her DNA. And this is why when it comes to this system that's led by soulless beings, they rather see black women in that Lilith state, because the energy is so great and the energy is so potent that they can absorb that energy, and it's a lot more feeling to them. So with all of that being said, when it comes to women, you really have to guard yourself. When you start going into that darkness and you end up on stage 1 with Lilith, you're gonna get so much attention from guys, it ain't even gonna be funny. But see, this is the catch. You're gonna get attention from the wrong type of guys. You're gonna get attention from dark guys. Now, when I say the wrong guys and when I say dark guys, what I'm meaning is, since you're going down into your lower self so you can work on yourself, you're gonna get attention from a whole lot of guys that's acting in their lower self as well, for whatever reason, because it's kind of symbolic to you getting initiated into a gang, and you start out as the lookout and then you work your way up the ranks until you become an OG later on in your life. So even though you may not be a succubus, the type of energy that you're going to end up having around you, since you're going into that darkness, is going to start off being that of a succubus. So the thing about it is, you're going to start attracting a whole lot of dudes that prey on succubus women, because like I said in my last podcast, this system that we live in is not going to give you an incentive to want to improve yourself and get all the way up to the level of Akasha, because since they're diligently trying to break up the black family, they know that when it comes to light beings, they don't want to deal with succubus women, because succubus women absorb and suck away all of the light and all of the positive energy that that light being has, and that light being knows that, because a lot of times the reason why that man turned into a light being is because he learned from that mistake of messing around with the succubus women that he was with in the past that sucked a lot of his light out, and he learned from that mistake, so now he doesn't want to mess with those type of women anymore. But ladies, I gotta tell you this, if you give in to that attention that you're gonna start getting from these dark guys, and you start to let these dark guys take pieces of your soul away, and you're not getting anything energetically positive positive in return that's going to help you and aid you in your transformation. Once you finally get there and you get to that last stage, you're going to be then gave so many pieces away of you that you're not even going to know who you are when you get there. And I see a lot of women when they get to that stage where they completed the race and they got all 3 sixes, but they're no longer desirable anymore. And a lot of these women end up being motivational speakers to the younger generation, letting them know not to do the same things and not to make the same mistakes that they made when they was younger, going on that journey that you're going on right now. Because as a man and as an alpha male, one thing that we crave over everything else is power. And for an alpha male that knows himself and can sexually control himself, when it comes to women, it's no longer pleasurable just to have sex with a woman. You want a piece of her soul, because that's where the power comes from. See, any guy can have sex with a girl and he get his nut off and all of that. I told you this is about to get X-rated, but it's another type of feeling that a man gets when he finds a feminine woman that genuinely likes him and that genuinely wants to give all of herself to that man, and that man knows how to rock her world in the bedroom to the point where once he finishes having sex with her, her mind is so fucked up that not only is he her imprint now, she literally starts to see herself in the eyes of him. And that's an equivalent of he has her soul, or he has a piece of her soul, because it gets to the point where she can't even see herself being without this dude. And even if the dude may be abusive or doing her wrong, he got her so on lock that it gets to the point where she even starts to look at the abuse as something that's pleasurable to her. I mean, the shit is real crazy. This is almost on some shadow underworld type shit, but this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the underworld. And the reason why I'm talking like this and know so much about it is because, not going too much into my sex life or anything like that, but not only have I talked to a lot of women who has this going on with them, and it's like they come to me because they think that maybe I can do something to help them get rid of that imprint, because it's like one of those situations to where she knows it's wrong and she knows that it's unjust, but on the flip side, as soon as he comes in the room, she just melts for him. And when I'm talking about this, I'm only talking to a certain type of dude, because you have a lot of guys out here that had sex with these girls and she might act like she's enjoying it, you know how women do the little fake orgasm, and you think that you put in that work, but really, just like what C Boogie said, she's in the bathroom finishing herself off. But what I'm talking about, it ain't something that you can just regurgitate from something that somebody else said or whatever. It's just one of those things that only a certain type of guys will be able to experience. Because just talking a little bit about myself, when I first started having sex, it was just something about that orgasm part that I didn't really like. Maybe it was because of all of the energy that I would lose when I would do it, and I'm the type of person where I like to be up and out and busy doing other things, and when I would have sex, I just wouldn't have the strength or the will to want to do anything else but just go to sleep. But the more and more I started to practice sex transmutation and holding in, I started to really see a difference when it came to how women would react. And it got to the point where I would notice something. That one time that I would get it in with a girl, especially a chick that feel like she's just unstoppable in the bedroom, and you doing all the things that she like, and y'all just in that rhythm, and all of a sudden them legs start trembling, them eyes start rolling back. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And then it gets to that point where she pushes you out, and men, y'all know what I'm talking about. For us guys, there's a certain power that we get. There's a surge of energy. I don't know how to explain it. But if you've ever had that happen to you and you was able to retain your sperm, and she's rolling around in the bed and all of this stuff, and then she look at you and she asks you, did you come? And you say, nah. And the look on her face that she gets, oh my God. With me, when I see that, it's like when you play Mortal Kombat and it says
KO, flawless victory.
Because if you leave her house after that, it's like she never ever leaves you alone after that. And this is something that can be very addictive. And then I started to learn that if you do that with women who have negative Lilith type of energy around them, for a guy, negative Lilith type of situations start to come up in your life. So in a lot of ways, that's what kind of made me slow down when it came to that. Plus, I don't want to have kids before I'm ready to have kids. And with me getting into this consciousness and I start vibrating at a real high level, it's to a point where now if I see a woman and she's attractive, but she got that Lilith stage 1 type of energy about her, I don't care how fat her ass is. I don't care how she looks. It's just a spiritual thing that's in me. It's kind of like a stench, and that stench that's on her aura, for me, it turns me off. And I was talking to my homegirl Isabel, and y'all can follow her page. It's Isabel Montero. She's a really dope podcaster, and she talks about a lot of things that I talk about, but I look at her as more of an Akasha type of figure, so we can talk about a lot of things that I can't really talk to a lot of other women about. And I was telling her how it's to the point now to where, especially if I'm around a group of younger guys or even older guys, and they got that dark low level root chakra type of energy, and they see a chick that they perceive as fine or sexy, and then they ask me, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. I wouldn't even get with her. Niggas would think I'm gay simply because I don't want to entertain them like that. I mean, I might give them some spiritual advice, but that's about it. But that's just the level of maturity that I'm at right now. So that's why I'm coming to y'all women, especially black women that's going into this darkness, trying to improve yourself. I'm just letting you know the type of things that you're going to be up against, because because I'm gonna leave y'all with this analogy, because you know I'm a beast when it comes to these stories and analogies. So women, look at this situation like you got a Cornish hen, and this Cornish hen has been seasoned real good and it's been dressed real good. It got the onions and the bell peppers and marinade or whatever you put on your Cornish hen. Then you put the barbecue sauce around it and you add a little water to the pan so that way the Cornish hen won't be dry. And you looking at that Cornish hen like, damn, this gonna be a good ass Cornish hen. It got the potential to be a good main course to this meal that I'm making, but I just gotta make sure that the chicken cooks thoroughly all the way through, and I also gotta make sure that I don't leave it in the oven too long to where the meat is dry and burnt, because either one of those things is not gonna be good for this chicken. So you put the chicken in the oven at 350 degrees, you already preheated it, so 10 minutes pass by and now the whole house smell like that chicken, and it smells good too. You like, god damn, this chicken smells so good. It's almost to the point because you're so hungry to where you like, man, if I ain't know no better, I would go in that oven and eat that chicken right now. But see, when it comes to food, logically you don't do that, simply because you know that even though that chicken smells so good, you logically know that that chicken inside is still raw. And if you was dumb enough to go in there in the oven and eat that chicken, not only would you get sick because initially you're eating raw meat, number two is, since you know that when you cook meat all the way through, it kills any germs or any parasites or anything that can potentially kill you, you also have a very, very high risk of getting a parasite inside of your body by eating that raw chicken. Now ladies, look at yourself as that Cornish hen with the seasoning around it and the onions and the bell peppers and the sauce around it. On the 3D level, that means that when you get to that point where you're preparing to go into the underworld, which is that oven, that hot oven that's gonna cook away all of those parasites that's in your body, cook away all of those negative entities and all of that stuff, and that season around you represents the knowledge that you gained that makes you want to go into the underworld to transform yourself. And look at those onions and those bell peppers and those carrots and all of that. Look at that as all of your ancestors around you and all of your spirit guides around you that's going to make this transformation taste so delicious, and it's going to be so delectable if you can just hang in there and just take the heat and use that heat to transform you. Now imagine the dark beings that's going to come at you, because they can smell you, and it's strong too. They can't smell that you're raw. They can't smell the blood and all of that stuff. All they smell is some good ass chicken, and I want it. I don't care if it's raw or not, because they don't know no better. They don't know how to read auras and how to decipher the right type of energy that they need to be taking in. And you, woman, you start to give in to those type of men, and they start taking pieces of you with them. So one guy comes in and he takes a drumstick, another guy comes in and he takes a drumstick, another guy comes in and he take a wing, another guy comes in, he take a breast, another guy comes in and he take a thigh. And if you keep on letting that happen, it'll get to the point to where once the time is complete and the chicken is done and ready to be served, you ain't got shit left to offer to nobody. You're just a bone with some little bit of meat around the sides of the bone, and then you still got the sauce and you still got the carrots and all the other stuff that you put around the chicken. I mean, I guess it'll be a bum ass gravy, right? So when it gets to that righteous hungry man that you was initially supposed to be saving yourself for, that righteous man isn't gonna want to be with you simply because they know that they'll never be fulfilled with you. And see, it don't even matter if you got all the fixings to go with it, meaning that you got the mashed potatoes and the macaroni and cheese and the baked beans and the biscuits and all of this stuff, because at the end of the day, what's good to have all the fixings when you know that the main dish, which was the Cornish hen, is just a big old bone? Translation: you can have the best career, you can have all the money that you need, you can have a nice house, a nice car, good credit, everything that your ideal man would be looking for in a woman when it comes to stability and finances. But at the end of the day, what's the profit of a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? So that's all I'm gonna talk about when it comes to that. I mean, I really wish y'all the best, and I send nothing but positivity, nothing but peace, nothing but love from a judgment-free man who can be the light and the dark being if I want to, because like I say, I feel like that's my duty as a messenger to give y'all the warning of what you're about to come up against. So yesterday I was doing my usual, had a long day at work, so I decided to go outside in the patio with my little spliffy and this time I got my favorite show on, and it's called Undercover Boss. Now this is my favorite show, and I've been watching this show ever since I was younger, and I always used to get a kick out of when the guy or the woman would reveal themselves to be an undercover boss, and all of those employees who were struggling but they treated that undercover boss right, how that undercover boss would sometimes write them a huge check or get them a real big raise or something like that, and that employee starts crying. And then on the flip side, that employer that was slacking off, being lazy, being disrespectful, and just overall being a detriment to the company, I would see how that undercover boss, once they pretty much told themselves who they were and all of that, the look of shame and just the overall look of being defeated would be on their face when that undercover boss would tell them either that they're fired or that if they don't get their act together, they are going to get fired. And while I'm watching Undercover Undercover Boss, I get this inkling in my head again to play this song by The Main Element that was called Everybody Plays the Fool Sometimes. Now again, I remember listening to this song as a kid, so naturally it brought back real good memories. But like I said on my last video when I was talking about Barry White, with this song too, I really didn't understand what they was actually saying in the song, but I just liked the beat and I just liked the melody of the song. So I had to get older and do some more living in order for me to really comprehend and understand the meaning of that song. And what that song is really saying is that even though a lot of us don't like to admit this sometimes, but we have multiple faces and we put those faces on depending on the environment that we're in and the type of people that's in that environment. So as a man, a lot of times the same way we talk to our mom and act around our mom isn't going to be the same way we're going to talk and act around our boss. And the same way we talk and act around our boss isn't going to be the same way that we talk and act around our wife or our girlfriend. And in each of those environments, the people of that environment is going to perceive you of being a certain way. So even though in your personal life, you may be a celebrity, you may be a boss, you may be the man, but when you go around your family, because you know they say sometimes skin folk ain't really kinfolk, and sometimes your family can be the one that can do you in worse than a stranger would. Sometimes you will quote unquote play the fool and let them believe that you ain't shit and let them believe that you don't really have anything going on, because you know that if you let all your cards be played out and if you let everything known, you know that nothing positive from them is going to come out from it. And it's a saying that I used to hear from a lot of street cats when I came up, because like I told y'all, when I grew up, I didn't really like hanging around a lot of people my age. I always used to hang around older women, and I used to always hang around those PIs and those street cats that kind of knew some knowledge, and they wasn't afraid of lacing me with that game. When I came up being a Gemini, just like Pop, I used to get in trouble a lot because of my mouth. You know, I used to talk too much. I used to let too many people know what I was doing or what I was trying to do, and I would see how some people would go out of their way to thwart the stuff that I would be trying to do. And this street cat pulled me to the side and he told me, bruh, you never supposed to let the right hand know what the left hand doing. And I can't lie, through the years that really stuck with me. And embodying this energy of Elegua, in a lot of ways, it's good to be invisible to the world until that time comes where you need to stand out. Because sometimes when you're in that fool state where people don't think that you have anything to offer them, a lot of times, just like that show Undercover Boss, that's where you get your genuine friends from. And when it comes to women, that's when you get those ride or die, potential wife, genuine Obanani type of women. Because remember, Obanani, she had her own queendom, she had her own kingdom that she was running way on the other side of the country. The reason why her and Shango got married was because she genuinely had love for Shango. And even if you're one of those type of guys that likes to be a player and likes to be in that bachelor type of life, a lot of us, we all have that one woman that if we ever did decide to quote unquote settle down, she would be the one that we would settle down with, because one way or another, she was there when we didn't have nothing. And as a guy, that's something that follows us. We never forget that type of stuff. So ladies, I'm giving y'all a little nugget. If you really want a good man, find one of these hermit dudes that's strongly on his purpose and be a real good friend to that guy. And if a man can genuinely feel that off of you, you're going to be unforgettable to him when he does have it all. Because as a guy, the women who pursue us, we remember them the most, especially if they're a beautiful woman. And this reminds me of the story that Bobby Hemmett talks about a lot. And this story is called The Knight and the Court Jester. And I'm just saying this story off of memory, so it may not have went exactly like this, but I'm just giving y'all a synopsis. If y'all want to hear this full story, you have to listen to Bobby Hemmett. Now, I'm not sure what lecture it's off of, but I've listened to a few lectures and he brought this story up. So if you're an avid listener of Bobby Hemmett, you've heard this story before. And pretty much the way it was, there was this woman who married a knight and he ended up getting that woman pregnant. But before the baby was born, the knight that was her husband ended up dying in battle. So that boy grew up not knowing really who his father was, but at the same time, that boy had a strong desire to want to be a knight when he grew up. And this is something that really scared his mom, because in the mom's mind, she's like, look, I've already lost my husband. Last thing I want to do is lose my son too. So when it was time for her son to go to the king, where his son wanted to be a knight, the mother dressed her son up in a court jester's costume and lied to her son and told her that that's what the knights wear, because he'd never seen a knight before really in real life. He just knows that he just wants to be one. So once this court jester gets to the castle and he gets in front of the king is laughing his ass off, but it's something about the spirit of that boy that makes the king want to keep him around. So instead of banishing him back to his home, he keeps the little boy around as a comic relief entertainment type of situation. But see, that little boy was on a mission, and every chance he got, he would go to the places where the knights were training, and all the knights would laugh at him, you know, not pay him no real serious type of attention, because I mean, he's just a court jester. What is he gonna do? So they would kind of be loose-lipped around him. They would tell all of their secret techniques. They would be telling all of their different fighting styles and all of that stuff to each other just out loud. And he was soaking in all of that game. Even in secret, he would go home while his mom was asleep, go outside, pull off a little tree branch stick and make that his makeshift sword. You know, like when we was kids and we would take sticks off the tree and use a bush as our training dummy. And in our minds, we'll be a samurai jack that type of character. And it got to the point where that boy grew into a man, and he was able to master the art of manipulation, being able to entertain the king so much that the king would let him hang out with the knights a lot more. And then he learned to master the art of fighting and master the art of sword fighting and all the things that it took to be a knight. And the thing about it was, since he was self-taught and he was able to learn everybody's secret techniques, secretly he was an even better fighter than all of the knights combined damn near, because of all of that practice that he used to do. Then it got to a point where there was a shortage of knights and there was a big battle that was coming up, and the king was looking around trying to find the next person who can be a knight. And that court jester went up there to the king very boldly, and he was like, I've been a court jester for you since I was a kid, and I've hung around those knights so long, and I've been practicing and preparing so long that I've been longing for this time to come. I've been waiting for this moment where I can finally be a knight. And man, that king laughed in his face until that time came where the king had no other choice but to let him on the battlefield. And when I tell you, that court jester showed up and showed out, like the way my mom would say, that court jester was whipping all kinds of ass out there on the battlefield. That dude caught more bodies than Wadi al-Salam. And if y'all don't know, Wadi al-Salam, aka the Valley of Peace, is the biggest cemetery in the world. And the legend goes that that court jester ended up being the greatest and the most widely decorated and celebrated knight of all time. Now, you know I have to give an example of how, on the flip side, if you put somebody in a certain category, just like that king when he looked at that court jester, and you can easily underestimate when you do stuff like that, and you start assuming that you can predict somebody's moves and they end up showing you out, that's what you call getting played for a fool. And thinking back in my life, I would say one of the biggest instances that I was played for a fool was in the 6th grade, because when I got in the 6th grade, that was really when I started learning how to rap, and it was slowly getting so interesting to me that it got to the point that I started to know at an early age that I liked rapping and that I wanted to be a rapper. Now, it took a long time for me to actually start quote unquote spitting bars, but I would work diligently writing rhymes and listening to different rap music. You know, I grew up in a Christian household, so I had to sneak and listen to it when I can. But while I was at school, I would diligently work hard so I can be a rapper. And I can owe all of that to my uncle, aka Young Ease, because he was only 3 years older than me, but he was the one that really taught me how to rap, and he was the main one that got me excited about rap because I saw how he would do it, and he was able to get all the attention and all the girls and all of that kind of stuff. So this was back before the Mr.BandClap and Playboy P days. I used to call myself Nigga P back then. Now, don't judge me, y'all, because this was a 9-year-old that we're talking about. So me in school, I was this scrawny looking kid with glasses that used to wear plain type of shirts, the same couple pair of jeans every week. And since my mom and dad couldn't afford to give me no Jordans or anything like that, I would wear the next best thing, which was Shaq's. So I in no way at all looked like a rapper. And when I was in elementary school, I got bullied a lot. I mean, people would find my rap books and tear them up, throw them away. Sometimes they would even tell the teacher. Then I would get suspended from school. And then when I got home, my mom and dad would do the same thing, you know, throw away my rap books, tear them up, tell me how I'm making the devil's music, all of that stuff. But I didn't let none of that stop me. I just had this passion and I just had this fire within me. I would stand up to my mom and dad, talk back, get smacked. Be like, look, I'm gonna be a rapper. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was like, I want to be a rapper. And with my uncle being that battery and that motivation to keep me doing it, I kept at it and I persevered till I finally made a rap that I kind of felt proud of. And it's funny because I only know like 2 bars of that rap now because it was so long ago. The only thing I really remember is,
they call me Nigga P cause they know I'm a pimp, and all these wannabes up in these streets, man, they just a wimp. And you can tell your mama and your grandpappy too, and if they come up in my face, I'ma slap their ass too.
that shit sound mad whack now. But shoot, back in the day, man, I thought I was spitting some bars, y'all. Man, I thought I was spitting some bars, man. So the time finally came because we used to have talent shows all the time at our school, but you had to be in a certain grade in order to get in them. So now I'm in the 6th grade. This is my last grade before I go to middle school, and I'm like, yo, this is the time that everybody's gonna know who I am, and I'm about to rap and I'm about to prove everybody wrong. So when I was in school, I had this music teacher named Miss Link. I'll never forget her. She had to been no more than like 23 or 22. She was mad young, and even though I'm not really into white girls like that, she was beautiful, I can't lie. And she holds a special place in my heart because when I graduated, she gave me my first keyboard, and I would play that keyboard so much that one day I ran across this tenor saxophone sound, and I fell in love with that tenor saxophone sound. So much so that in middle school, I told my band teacher when she asked us what instruments do we want to play, I told her that I wanted to play the tenor saxophone because I just loved how much it sounded on that keyboard. So I can honestly say that if it wasn't for that keyboard that Miss Link gave me, I probably wouldn't be the prestigious tenor sax player that I ended up becoming because I would have never had an interest to pick up a saxophone. So in Miss Link class, if you would get to school early enough, she would teach you lessons. So I would get up super early in the morning so I can go to Miss Link's class before my homeroom, and she taught me how to play a few songs. But this particular time, since Miss Link and my uncle had the same keyboard, Miss Link had this karaoke machine to where you can use the tape recorder and record music on it. So I initially made the beat using my uncle's keyboard, and then I got up early that morning and recorded the beat on Miss Link's keyboard and karaoke machine. So Miss Lee, my PE teacher at the time, she was the lady that was in charge of the talent show pretty much, and she was also in charge of putting people on the show. So I remember I was running down the hall trying to catch Miss Lee so I can audition for the talent show, and it turned out that I was too late. Now this is the part where my dad being cool with all the teachers and the lunch ladies in the school paid off big time, because I know if this was any other person, this wouldn't happen. So since Miss Lee knew my dad and I wasn't a disruptive type of student in her PE class, she was like,
Alright, Ricky, just show me what you gonna do. If you say that you gonna rap, spit some right now.
so I spit my little rap.
They call me Nigga P, cause they know I'm a pimp.
And miraculously, Miss Lee actually liked my rap. Now she was like, you can't call yourself Nigga P. You gonna have to change your rap name. But other than that, that was a nice rap. And yeah, I'll put you on a talent show. And man, I never felt so many butterflies in my stomach at one time. I was like,
Yes.
you know how kids do when the teacher say, after y'all finish this work, y'all can go outside. And we be like,
Yes.
So mind you, there was this one dude that used to bully me a lot in elementary school. Now, it never got to the point where we was fighting, simply because my dad was so instrumental in the school that people would talk shit about me, but they would never put their hands on me because everybody knew my dad, and they knew that there would be dire consequences when it came to that. So I found out through the grapevine that he was gonna be in the talent show as well. Now this really threw me for a loop, because this dude in school, he was one of those hardcore, cussing all the time, real bad type of kid. They used to get on the teacher's nerves a lot. I was like, okay, I know what his game is, so I really got a point to prove now. So the day of the talent show came, I packed my long sleeve Spider-Man shirt, I found some cool looking jean shorts, got one of my dad's baseball caps that he used to wear, snuck that to school, got my mama to buy me a pair of shades, went and got an old toothbrush, started cleaning my shacks, so now my shacks look all nice and shiny. Man, I felt like I was the 7th member of 3-6 Mafia. Man, you couldn't tell me nothing back then. Now, me thinking about this now, I'm like, bro, I was looking so tacky and so corny. But look, I thought I was that nigga back then, and I had this energy like that court gesture that I was gonna slay and prove to everybody that I'm that nigga. I've always been that nigga, and I'll forever be that nigga. Now, so far, I bet y'all like, damn, what you mean this is the memory that you was played for a fool? Everything sounds good up to this point. Well, there was 3 strikes that happened, and after those 3 strikes, I lost focus, and I let my pride and I let my assumptions get the best of me, and I end up making the biggest mistake of all time. So I can't lie, everybody was hyped up to see me. I mean, it was like one of those things to where people were so shocked that I was on the talent show list as a rapper that they never could expect for me to even be. Man, it was crazy. So strike one, the guy that used to bully me a lot, I found out that not only was he on the show, but he was rapping too, which didn't really faze me, because like I said, I assumed that he was gonna be on some hardcore stuff too. And I feel like with the rap that I wrote, it was gonna be way more hardcore than what he could ever do, because I was that confident in my lyrics back then. And plus, me and my uncle made a real dope beat that I know people gonna be rocking to. So I felt like I had this in the bag. But strike one was that when the day of the talent show came and it was time for him to rap, he ended up having to record his beat on the same tape that my beat was on. So I already felt like that was effed up. But when it was time for him to go on stage and the teacher put the tape in and push play, she forgot to turn it around to side beat with his beat. So they ended up playing my beat to his rap. So now I'm over here fuming. I'm so pissed off, because I'm like, bruh, that's my beat that you rapping on. Now, strike two. Guess what this nigga rapped about? This was the strike two. This hardcore, bullying, cussing all the time, baddest student in the class. This nigga made a rap about say no to drugs. I was like, yo, are you fucking kidding me? And he got a standing ovation for that shit. I'm like, yo, this can't be life right now. I'm like, yo. And then, last but not least, strike three. I had to end up going right after him. So he sit down next to the other contestants, looking at me, snickering, because this dude just made the most positive, influential rap of everyone who went before him. So not only did he get a standing ovation, but he's a crowd favorite down there right now when it comes to the rappers in the talent show. And the straw that broke the camel's back was, I told Miss Lee that I was going to change my name from Nigga P to Playboy P. But I guess since I was so late getting on the list for the show, she forgot to tell the announcer what my rap name was. So she was like, coming to the stage, performing his original rap song, Little Ricky. Everybody started laughing, and I felt like the way I used to feel when I was in class, when people used to steal my rap books and read them out, didn't know the rhythm, didn't know the cadence, so they would say it was whack. And all of those memories, all of those feelings just came to me all at once, and I got so mad. mad that I went on stage and I forgot everything that Miss Lee told me. Now, I remembered when she said that I couldn't curse, and my rap didn't have cursing in it anyway. But the one thing that she didn't tell me, the one thing that I forgot to even ask her, could I say the word nigga? So I go on stage, everybody laughing, she rewinds the tape. So now the same beat that old dude was rapping on, that was originally my beat, now that starts playing. My heart is racing. I done forgot everything that Miss Lee told me not to say. So I grabbed the mic and I blurted out,
Hey, confidential nigga.
See, I can laugh about this now, but this was like one of my saddest memories, because when I tell you, I got the crowd going crazy off of many reasons. Number one, because nobody ever imagined that I could be so bold and so daring and just so hardcore as a rapper, because I used to get bullied a lot. Number two, the fact that I had the balls to say nigga like that, something that they never even expected from me. Everybody was like, oh snap, oh. But everything went downhill from there. Miss Lee ran up on the stage trying to get me off the stage, and then to top it all off, my principal, Mr. Walker, just so happened to be walking down the hallway the minute I said that. So Miss Lee would have slick let it slide had Mr. Walker literally ran and sprinted to the auditorium so he can not only run me off the stage, but afterwards to make this whole speech about why saying nigga and saying certain words are not permitted at this school, and how you would get suspended, wrote up, and all of that if you even thought about using those type of words. So instead of me being the example in a good way, I was the example in a horrible way, because I was played for a fool. You know, I never expected for him to go up there and rap about say no to drugs, somebody that was so negative, and I assumed that he was gonna do what I did, but instead I was the one that was played. So like the good brother Corporate would say, moral of the story, there's nothing wrong with playing a fool, because the left hand isn't supposed to know what the right hand is doing. But make sure that you on your grind and that you really are a boss that's undercover. So if that time comes where you gotta show up and show out, that you do just that. And last but not least, never assume, because by God, if you're wrong, all you're doing is making an ass out of yourself. Because if you call yourself trying to dig a grave for somebody, you might as well turn around and dig an even bigger hole for yourself, because everybody plays the fool sometime. You just better make sure that you don't get played. So that's my message. I hope that y'all got some good knowledge out of that on some Kevin Hart shit, laughing at my pain and learning from the mistakes of my pain. And like I said on my last podcast, if y'all are interested in buying my jewelry, feel free to email me at shopmeliamar@gmail.com. Also, if you want to donate, I'll put my information below. And until next time, BandClap TV, we out.